Hello everyone, my name is Evan Freiberger, and today we're going to be doing a forecast and going over the latest information on Tropical Storm Jerry, which is looking like a bug splatter on a window. And then we are still monitoring this frontal boundary that is going to come down to the south and eventually spin up a coastal low somewhere in this area, which will eventually turn into a nor'easter as it moves up into this area right here, bringing some decent winds, waves, coastal impacts, and potentially some significant coastal flooding as well. And also we are monitoring this tropical storm that is out over in the Pacific that it's about to potentially bring a significant flood threat into Arizona and New Mexico. As you can see, this is water vapor imagery, and there is a pocket here of blue, which is a lot of moisture. And eventually we're going to get some forcing from this big old low pressure system that is back over here on the west coast. You can see just that right edge starting to move in, and eventually we're going to start to see those spreading apart of those wind vectors aloft, and that's going to bring enough forcing, which will basically just force our storms against their will to form and drop a lot of rain out here. What's that, Chazzy? You want everybody to like and subscribe? Okay, I'll tell him. Chaz says to like and subscribe. He's a dog, so some of y'all might not listen to him, but I tell you what, last time he told somebody to do that and they didn't listen, he peed and pooped on their lawn. I can't control him. He might be a small dog, but he's got a big bark. First off, coming down here to Tropical Storm Jerry, you can see that it is currently got a decent amount of convection around it. Still kind of disorganized looking, but it is packing some decent winds inside of it. As you can see, as of right now, today, the storm is still a tropical storm with 65-mile-per-hour winds and max wind gusts of up to 75-mile-per-hour winds as well. Storm is moving at 20 miles per hour, so it's going to be moving pretty quickly here on this track. Got a weakness in a high pressure system and a little bit of an upper level low up here that's going to nudge our storm further up and up to the north. And then eventually, as this thing makes it out over into the open Atlantic, sometime between today and tomorrow, we're probably going to be seeing this thing turn into a hurricane. Good news is that the wind field on this storm is relatively small. It's not really a big storm. It's got a lot of the convection, but it's a little bit deceiving. We'll be going over to the models and telling you guys what this thing is going to do. But first, we're going to be focusing in on this area right here, which as of right now might look like nothing out of the ordinary, just a bunch of random colors on a map that really doesn't make sense to the average person. And if you are the average person who doesn't know about weather, you're kind of right. As of right now, there's nothing really a whole lot to see or to talk about on this storm and how it looks on satellite. But this little piece of energy that has just snuck out over into the Atlantic is eventually going to spin up into a nor'easter. Let's go over to our models and show you guys the latest on that and what you guys can expect for some impacts. And when you're just looking at the satellite, it's kind of hard to figure out where this dang thing has come from. But if we come over and look at our 500 millipar, geopotential height, cyclonic vorticity, and wind, or basically storm energy for folks that almost makes zero sense to me with. But it means something, I promise. But yeah, you can see, watch back over here near Missouri. This is an analysis period, so this isn't a forecast. As we already know, this boundary is already sunken kind of into the spot where this thing is going to form. But you can see we've had a little bit of a shortwave trough that is tracked pretty much down into here. And eventually that energy is going to come over into the southeast. Not really do too much there, but as it exits off into the Atlantic, you see this thing really starts to spin up as we get into early Sunday, according to the Euro model. Also keep in mind that there's also another little piece of energy back up here, another little short wave trough, and these storms are eventually going to interact with each other. This guy's going to sit up here, kind of stall, and that's going to kind of help our storm unfortunately stay a little bit closer to the coast. And then as it gets up into parts of Delaware, going up close to Long Island, New Jersey, as we go into early Monday, you can see that's when our storm is going to probably have the most energy kind of rotating around that area. And that's when we're going to see probably our worst impacts somewhere in between Sunday afternoon going into Monday morning as this storm reaches peak intensity. Now, the good news is that this isn't going to be some sort of bomb cyclone that's going to explode and everybody's going to start running with their hair on fire. So it's not going to be the strongest nor'easter ever. It's barely even going to be a significant nor'easter. We could see some significant impacts near the coast, but man, we have seen some stronger nor'easters than this. So it's really not anything to freak out about for most people that get impacted by the storm. As long as you stay away from this coast, it's probably just mainly going to be like a mosquito and just kind of be an annoying storm that just hangs around for a little bit too long. So now that we know kind of the hidden details of what is making this storm, if I push this forward, you can see the GFS is going to be bringing our storm storm pretty close to North Carolina. It will not be at peak intensity here, but probably as it gets unfortunately close to the Cape Hatteras area, where we've already seen some impacts from some of our hurricanes that have come away from shore, but still brought in some big waves and some coastal flooding to the area. We're probably going to see an increase of that again, but some heavy rain could start as early as morning of Saturday here over there into southern, kind of on the coastal region here of North Carolina. As I continue to push this into future, as we go into about Sunday morning, like really early Sunday morning, we're talking about like 2-3 a.m. Rain's going to really start to pick up over there near Cape Hatteras. Those winds are going to start to pick up probably around 30 to 40 knots, which again is like 32 to 45 mile per hour winds with some gusts a little bit higher than that. And then as I continue to push this forward, you can see that our low pressure system continues to deepen as it moves into early morning on Monday. And you can see that it deepens really close to Maryland and Delaware. Our winds will probably be strongest around in these areas and also to the north, where we have these really close smushed together lines that are around this little circle here. The closer those lines get, the more wind is produced and the higher the chance you see trampolines flying in the air. Although there might be only a couple of gusts along mainly the coast that are going to have that capability, but they are going to be the type of winds that if a flying squirrel does a big old yawn, it might just float away. If you got that joke, congratulations, your brain works in the morning. I need at least 2 copies before that happens. But yeah, now let's go compare this to the Euro model and go over the timing and what the Euro says. These models are still a little bit different, but I mean, overall, they kind of generally show the same picture. As we push this into early morning on Sunday, you can see the Euro is a little bit further south with our main piece of energy, and we can see it kind of split here. We got this low pressure system up here and another one down here, and they're going to do a little bit of a Fujiwara dance, and the Euro kind of brings us back towards the coast over there into New Jersey, also kind of close to Maryland and Delaware as that kind of moves down to the south. The winds will probably be strongest early morning on Monday here as that rain really starts to pick up and that wind starts to pick up as well. You see our little gradient lines here really close together, almost so close they can smell each other, and again, that's going to increase those winds. So let's go ahead and look at those winds. So this storm, as it rides up close to North Carolina, the winds shouldn't be at their peak until it gets into this little pocket here, and it's really going to be early morning on Monday as this makes a close approach to Long Island over there near Nantucket, the New Jersey coast. Probably going to see 30 to 40, maybe even 50 knot winds. Again, we've seen nor'easters pump in like 60, 70, even 80 mile per hour sustained winds. So this isn't like the biggest nor'easter we've ever seen. The low pressure of this storm is actually kind of weak in comparison to some of the nor'easters. This is at 998. Some of the bigger nor'easters we've seen that bomb out near the coast, those bring the pressure down into the 970s, sometimes even lower. But generally overall, there will be some wind impacts. Definitely worried about coastal impacts, coastal flooding, and also some rain impacts as well, which we'll be talking about in a bit. But this is the Euro scenario, about 40 to 50, maybe even 60 mile per hour wind gusts being possible there as we move into Monday morning. Again, early Monday morning, probably before most of you wake up. And if you're a millennial or Gen Z, probably about 6 hours to 7 hours before you wake up. Now, if you look at the GFS, it's a little bit of a different scenario here. You can see those winds start a little bit quicker here, and the low pressure system is a little bit stronger here in the GFS, with those gradient winds being a little bit stronger on the northern side. So pretty much Sunday afternoon, we could see anywhere from 40 to 50 mile per hour winds with some wind gusts up to 60 mile per hour winds being possible as this pushes up the East Coast. And again, that's going to last from late Monday into early Monday before, our storm starts to interact with land and those winds really start to die down, and then it gets pushed off of the coast. Another thing that we've got to be watching out for this storm is our wave heights here. And as you can see, late Sunday here, our wave heights are going to be probably at their peak. We're talking about anywhere from 11 to 15 foot wave heights off of the coast of New Jersey and Long Island. And Euro has generally the same picture, potentially bringing some, maybe just like 17, close to 17 foot, but probably still around that 9 to 15 foot range here for New Jersey, going up into Long Island mainly, and then also over there near Nantucket. As it makes a close approach to North Carolina, you can see that it also brings maybe 9 to 11 foot, which again is going to be enough to continue to batter those homes. They're unoccupied, thankfully, but we could see some more of those fall into the ocean, unfortunately. And last but not least, as all this is said and done, we could have anywhere from 6 to 7 inches down over here in South and North Carolina of some flooding rain. The reason why it's down here, not really as far up to the north, it's as our storm kind of gets strongest with its wind, it's going to have the most dry air combating it. So that's going to take out some of those moisture amounts, but we still could see anywhere from 3 to 4 inches, maybe some isolated pockets of 5 inches there on the coast of New Jersey. So flooding will be an issue with this storm. So definitely need to watch out for that. GFS has a similar picture, but a little bit less rain there for South Carolina. Still anywhere from 6 to 7 inches over there in North Carolina, and a little bit more, 3 to 5 inches over here into parts of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, also parts of New Jersey. So again, watch out for that flood threat as well. It's not going to just be a wind and coastal storm. There could also be some flooding issues. Now, coming back over to the Pacific Ocean, this is the Baja Peninsula and the Gulf of California there. This is Tropical Storm Priscilla, and obviously it's not going to be a threat in terms of tropical activity for the United States, but you see all of this here. If I switch this over to the water vapor imagery, there's still a decent amount of moisture in this area, and that's eventually going to be streaming into the Pacific Southwest, and we could see actually some major flooding, maybe even some spots getting over 10 inches of rain, which in this area is quite unheard of. So we could talk about maybe even some isolated areas where catastrophic flooding could be possible. If you switch over to our future radar, pretty much starting today going into tomorrow, we're going to see waves and waves of rain come in, and then it's really going to pick up as we move into the 10th, going into the 11th early morning, and then as we go into the afternoon, some more rain is going to keep happening. So over the course of a couple of days here, we could see just rain after rain after rain, and some of these spots are going to potentially pick up a decent amount. And this is the NAM solution. We're going to be looking at a couple of models here. Over there near Flagstaff can get up to 5 inches. Up over here near Page can get up to 5 inches. But we do have some model disagreement. Check this out. You can see the GFS actually has a spot here of up to 10 inches of rain in Mexico, and if that can make it all the way in to the southern Arizona and New Mexico area, that could be a big problem. So we're monitoring this very, very closely. But yeah, if you live down there in southern Arizona, southern New Mexico, again, we were talking about 5 inches on this model, the NAM 12K, but you can see there's still a bunch of rain to come into southern New Mexico and southeastern South Carolina as we get some orographic lift off these mountains here in Mexico. So those rain totals are not going to be showing the whole picture. So we really got to keep an eye on this storm and that moisture as it comes into the United States. So here's our current pattern right now across the United States. See, we got this big old low pressure that is off of the west coast. It's probably bringing some wind up there into the Pacific Northwest. Got this little hurricane that's going to be bringing some moisture into here. We have a high pressure, a ridge out over in the central United States, and then some short waves kind of coming off of a trough that's eventually going to be causing our northeaster. As I push this forward, you see this wave kind of stays stationary, like it doesn't want to budge, like it's a sloth in a tree, and it really doesn't move for, a couple of days out there. Could have a little bit of a shortwave trough come down into here. That's not really going to do much other than interact with that nor'easter that's going to be coming up the east coast. And then eventually we're going to see some flow aloft return to the northern United States. And you can make some arguments that some thunderstorms could develop there. The good news is that our lower level winds and our upper level winds are quite displaced, so might not be too much of really anything. I mean, if we come over here to our instability, you can see there's just nothing up there. So maybe some thunderstorms could be possible, but our main threats are going to continue to be this nor'easter and this flooding threat here for the United States. Now, in terms of where the moisture is, you can see that it's going to be relatively dry over here in the eastern part of the United States. That shortwave trough moves in, bringing a little bit more dry air down into like the Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago over there into the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, with some moisture hanging on the west or the east coast. And eventually a little bit more of a substantial trough brings even more cooler air and dry air on the backside. If we come look at these temperatures, it's going to generally stay warmer, mainly for Texas, going into like Florida, but definitely cooler up here in the northeast and also the Ohio Valley as we get quite the surge here of some colder air into the western portion of the United States. You can see as I push this back and then push it forward, you can see that air comes really from like the Arctic and Canada and surges down into the United States. Let's go look at the GFS a little bit more long term here. See if it's picking up on that same signal. And also, yeah, you can see this cold air really tries to come in pretty quickly, and it's going to nip at the United States like a little tiny chihuahua. But it looks like it's mainly going to be a cool down for the northern portion of the United States. But we got to watch for this maybe surging a little bit further to the south. But definitely, some freezing temperatures up there. Maybe even a little bit of snow can't be ruled out for like Montana and like northern Minnesota, and that's going to be potentially from the 11th going into the 14th there. But yeah, welcome to the end of the video. If you made it all the way into here without falling asleep, I applaud you. You are a weather nerd. You get the weather nerd sticker. Weather nerd approved. That's you. But anyways, see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.